13 games into the 1971-72 basketball season, Dave's first on the hardwood, the Gophers were 10-3 and a perfect 4-0 in the Big Ten.
Ohio State was coming to town. They were the Big Ten powerhouse.
And here we are, the upstart Minnesota with Bill Musselman, with this new team of guys coming in.
They were drawing about 6,000 to 7,000 a game, and within a month they had 19,000 people in Williams Arena. That's when the fire marshal still had a sense of humor. It was the same night the NHL All-Star Game was held at Met Center, and everybody was focused on the Gopher-Ohio State game. The NHL All-Star Game was the runner-up for attention that night.
Luke Whitty, the Ohio State center, had been throwing elbows all game and getting away with it and frustrating the Gophers to some degree, and it made a cheap shot at the end of the first half that almost resulted in a fight then.
That's in the background now. It gets late in the game. It's obvious Ohio State's going to win. Luke Whitty falls to the floor, gets knocked to the floor.
He went up for a layup. One guy fouled him really hard. The other blocked the ball. And then to this day, our guy, one of the guys who was picking him up, says that he spit at him when he's picking him up.
Corky Taylor kneed him, and then Ron Behagen came off the bench, and all hell broke loose. And Gopher fans climbed up on the elevated floor and started chasing him around. And I think 2-3 Buckeyes ended up in the hospital.
Taylor and Behagen were suspended for the remainder of the season. Winfield, who was also involved in the fracas, was not suspended.
I remember coming home after that game. My mother was sitting in the living room and watching TV, and she was kind of nervous. She was like shaking, and she had a tear in her eye because it was so scary. It was scary to her. I said, Mom, I'm all right. I'm okay, I can handle myself, but it wasn't that. When you're a kid, when you're young, you don't know the consequences, the enduring consequences of something like that.
One consequence of the incident was an increased role on the court for Winfield.
Because 2 of the players were suspended for the rest of the year, that elevated Winfield into the starting lineup, and they called it the Iron Five, and they had more than 5 guys to play, but it was really only 5 guys played very much.
We led the nation in defense. We were great at rebounding, very deliberate, slow-down offense. He didn't trust anybody else except the 5 on the court. And very unusual, and you couldn't get by with it today. But that's what we did.
Winfield's tireless play with the Iron Five helped keep the Gophers in the Big Ten title hunt.
Every week, the pressure, the focus was bigger and more every game. And that wasn't even my primary sport. I'm trying to think about baseball, but there was no way. You had to really split my time and my thoughts. And it was a lot of pressure. There were times I thought I'd break down, but I made it.
The Gophers won the Big Ten championship and earned an invitation to the 1972 NCAA tournament, the first in Minnesota history.
That was Minnesota's first Big Ten title in 35 years. It had been since 1937 that they had won. And so that team won the Big Ten title and then went to the NCAA regionals, a 4-team regional in Dayton, Ohio. And they played Florida State the first round. And if you go back and look, they lost to them. And Florida State was the only team that year that gave UCLA a game on their way to another national title.
The season was over. I come and play baseball my junior year, and I hurt my arm pitching in cold weather right around the elbow. And I remember the coach saying, if you can't pitch, don't come back until you can pitch. And it was like going from the penthouse to the outhouse. And I couldn't pitch. I didn't pitch my entire junior year. Didn't play.
The legend of Dave Winfield continued to grow his senior year. As a starter for the basketball team, Winfield averaged over 10 points a game as the Gophers finished 21-5, 1 game away from a Big Ten title. On the diamond, Winfield overcame the arm troubles that had sidelined him his junior year, and thanks to some pleading with his coach, took on an added responsibility as a senior.
I had to play in the summer. All my summer ball, I would continue to play extremely well. Hit, pitch, run. I finally came back from Alaska, Fairbanks, Alaska, the Alaskan League, and I showed the coach, come on, coach, look what I've done. Look at my hitting, look at my pitching. All right, we'll let you play this year.
His senior year, manager Dick Siebert had Dave both pitch and play left field. And for the first time in his college career, Winfield would get to hit.
Big question about Dave's hitting as a college guy was he had this big hitch, you know. He dropped those hands down before he swung, and they didn't know if that would catch up to Major League pitching.
His swing was comparable to a guy that I knew in Boston by the name of Ted Williams. Ted Williams had a little hitch in his swing also, and of course that was a no-no, but he was so strong, he could get back up in the hitting position, and he could, he could hit.
Third baseman did not cheat in on him. Third baseman played him deep, the shortstops played him deep, and the outfielders always seemed to back up a couple steps when he came up.
The outfield fence was wood, and I can remember some of those line drives. They hit the wood fence so hard, I thought he was going to knock the thing over that day. And they would echo, and the loudness of the impact on the fence, I'll never forget that. It startled me.
In 1973, Winfield posted mind-boggling numbers for Minnesota. He finished with a 13-1 record as a pitcher with a 2.74 ERA, and in his first season at the plate, he hit .385 with 8 home runs and 53 RBIs in only 43 games.
During the Big Ten season, he had more of an impact on the team as a hitter than he did as a pitcher. He was a dominant player. He was a man among boys. He really was.
He just had it all then. He was a respected and feared pitcher, as well as a respected and feared hitter.
Winfield's sublime pitching and hitting led the Gophers to the Big Ten title and eventually to the 1973 College World Series in Omaha. In their first game at historic Rosenblatt Stadium, Winfield pitched a shutout over Oklahoma, striking out 14 Sooners. The Gophers reached the semifinals, where they faced Southern California.
In the 1973 World Series, we didn't know who Minnesota was. We knew Arizona State and those kind of teams on the West Coast, but no, coming out of the Midwest, we didn't know who Minnesota was and didn't realize what Dave Winfield was going to become at that time.
Playing USC and had 15 strikeouts. And they had one hit going into the last inning.
And basically, he blew our hitters away. He was throwing 93, 95 miles an hour, and he was a standout.
In the ninth inning, with Minnesota leading 7-0 and Winfield having thrown nearly 140 pitches, manager Dick Siebert changed pitchers, and Dave went to play left field.
When they took him out of the game, two things came to our mind. Thank you for taking him out of the game, and you guys think you're that good. Well, let's see what happens.
What happened next remains part of Rosenblatt Stadium history.
You know, the legend goes that after they had gotten back to from 7-0 to 7-2 to 7-6, that there was an attempt to see if Dave could go back in the game and get a save in a game that he started.
During that time frame that they were scoring runs, Dick said, go out and ask him if you want to come in.
And then they called timeout, and then I'm in left field, and they asked me to come in. We met around shortstop.
Dick wants you to come in, but I'm suggesting that you don't go in because of your arm problem.
Can you come in and pitch some more and finish this off? I couldn't. I had thrown at least 140, 150 pitches. Things that they wouldn't do now. But I couldn't do it. So they brought our guys back in. They gave up the runs, and we lost.
They were up 7-0, lost it 8-7, gave up 8 runs in the bottom of the ninth and lost it, and they were done.
To be honest with you, everybody knew if he would have stayed in the game, it would have been a different outcome.
USC would win the national title, but Dave Winfield was named MVP of the 1973 College World Series.
What he did in that World Series in 4 games was something that I don't know if anybody's done anything like that.
Those things don't happen very often. We reward the winners, and that speaks to the magnitude of not only his performance, but his athleticism, the fact that he did it with the bat and his arm as well.
Dave Winfield arrived at the University of Minnesota in 1969, an unproven baseball talent on a half scholarship. During the course of 4 years, he won Big Ten titles in 2 different sports, and upon graduation was drafted in 3 different sports: baseball, basketball, and despite never having played a down in college, football.
Dave Winfield was one of the greatest natural athletes I've ever seen play Big Ten anything.
His greatest achievement to me was being able to play both the baseball and the basketball and finish school. That was a great achievement in itself.
You never know what's going to become history or lore or legend or anything like that. You just give it your best. They were great days. They were great days. I really wouldn't trade it for anything.
To learn more about Dave Winfield and see the current list of the top 50 icons in Big Ten history, visit BigTenIcons.com. For Icons, I'm Keith Jackson. So long, everybody.